Hey, how you doing? Welcome to Friday night's Geek Entertainment Fiesta. Sometimes news, some discussion, as this week when our special is. You can see some of my friends hanging out. 80's cartoons. Oh, you don't have to get on the action, bud. 80's cartoon night. Hey, Lena. Hey, Tony. Thanks for stopping in. Hope good. Staying safe, staying busy. So we're gonna get into 80's cartoon night. I'm trying to think if there's anything I wanted to mention before. Yeah, a couple things. So today, that movie Onward went on Disney Plus. If anybody was looking to watch that, Disney Plus today. Not too much going on. I watched that third season of that show Ozark. But yeah, not too much else going on in the TV world to mention, I don't think. So we'll get into our 80's cartoon. Alright, so before I get into like individual cartoons, I want to throw out some of my like favorite voice actors. Like, I've always kind of liked voice acting, and like Danny will tell you, I'm a terrible person to watch anything animated with. That's this person. That's this person. Like, I recognize people's voices really well. I would always have loved to do voice acting because like I like acting. I did some theater and stuff like that, but I was like primarily a dancer, though I didn't get too much into the acting because I like doing it, but I don't like necessarily like the attention. Voice acting would be great. I'd love it. So like I like a lot of voice actors. My favorite voice actor of all time is June Foray. Foray was awesome. She did so many characters on so many different things. She was Rocky from Rocky and Bullwinkle, Natasha. She was like the granny on Looney Tunes and a few other characters. She played Talkie Tina on the episode of favorite episode of The Twilight Zone with Telly Savalas and the doll. So she did Talkie Tina the doll. Love her. She's awesome. Cree Summer. I don't know if any of you guys like know who she is. Like if you know 80s-ish or like late A Different World started, because it was like a spin-off of the Cosby Show. So I want to say late 80s, early 90s, maybe. She was on that for a while. And a couple of other things, but she's primarily a voice actress and has been since she was like a really young kid, and she's done everything. Like pick stuff out to mention. I mean, from the like her earliest was Penny on Inspector Gadget. She did the Strawberry Shortcake. She did the Care Bears, Star Wars cartoons, Garbage Pail Kids, everything. Um, Tiny Toons. She did Animaniacs. She did a bunch of Nickelodeons too. I don't know those as well personally, but really cool. She's in like everything. And of course, a lot who did like a lot of the original Looney Tunes voices. He was known as like the man of 1,000 voices. He's probably like the most famous straight up voice actor. He popped up in a lot of things that I looked at from 80's cartoons, which was really quite impressive because he passed away in 19. So he was just doing cartoon work like right up until the end. Really, he was in a lot of things that I came across. A few like names that I just kept seeing over and over that some of you might know who they are. Some of you might not. But Lawrence was a really famous voice actor, did a bunch of stuff. Frank Welker, who did like Fred from Scooby-Doo, Garfield, Mega, Transformers, and he's actually in a 2020 Scooby-Doo cartoon that's coming out. I think a movie, I'm not sure. It's called Scooby, some kind of Scooby-Doo cartoon, but he's the only one of the original voice cast that's going to be in it. Coming out this year sometime. He's not, he does the voice of somebody else, but he's the only original Scooby-Doo voice actor that's going to be in that. And Russie Taylor came up everywhere. Like, she did so much voice work, and you guys may know her as the voice of Minnie Mouse. Russie Taylor did the voice of Minnie Mouse first. She passed away in 2019. So until she passed away, she was the voice of Minnie Mouse. And she came up everywhere. Knowing who she was from the beginning, I would have like caught the ones that she was in, but didn't like pick her up on a lot of things. I didn't get into the voice cast for every show or anything like that. That would be insane. There's a lot of 80's cartoons. So I went through most of them. I didn't do kind of the ones that were totally and maybe came on for a couple episodes and didn't seem like they lasted very much. A lot that I like do not remember at all, but a lot that I remember. And looking through these things, like I went through some pretty comprehensive like lists of 80's cartoons, but even there were a few that I missed. So if you guys think of any that I don't mention, for sure let me know. Because like we had gone through the whole list doing the images for the preview. There was like the Dennis the Menace cartoon, and I was like, was that the 80's? Because it didn't pop up. How did Dennis the Menace not pop up? It was a pretty kind of basic major cartoon, so I had to go back and check. It was definitely 80's, so don't know why. Maybe I missed it. Possible. There was a lot of stuff. But reminded me of a bunch of little things that I probably didn't get into, but totally forgot existed. There was this one called Herself the Elf. This is this little elf thing. I had books, all kinds of things of that, like little elf thing. The Charmkins. That was like a brief cartoon in the 80's, but the toys were really popular. Thundar and the Barbarians. That was a very early 80's one that I remember. The Littles. Another one that I took about. Glow Friends, which was a cartoon they did off those little glowworm things. And there were little like glowworm figurines, that plastic Smurf ones, but they were like all different glowworms. I remember that, which I totally didn't think of. And even though I know they still make those little baby like, there was like a time when they first came out that was kind of a big thing, those glowworms. And yeah, there was a cartoon and totally forgot about it. Camp Candy. was a cartoon that John Candy did. It ran from 89 to 92. And I totally forgot that like really brought back a lot of memories going through everything. And I'll throw in that I'm gonna consider The Simpsons an 80s cartoon. First aired in 1989, so technically an 80s cartoon, and it was on like before it became a cartoon. It was a spinoff from this show called The Tracy Ullman Show, and they would do little like Simpsons cartoons in between like sketches and things like that on the Tracy Ullman Show. That's where all that came from originally. So it actually started before it aired as a series in 89. Let's get into our general list of 80s cartoons. So it's kind of a little bit all over the place. I didn't like put it in any specific order, medical or by year or anything like that. I sort of kind of grouped similar ones together if I could, but it's kind of just a list of 80s. So go through it. Alright, so first I have to start with the quintessential 80s cartoon, The Smurfs. It's everything 80s. Wonderful. Which I found out Smurfs did not actually originate here. It was a Belgian cartoon that we like. Smurfs ran from 81 to 89, which is actually a pretty long run for an animated series. I realized in this that a lot of animated series from the 80s that to me were on for a long time, really they only did like 2 seasons of, and then I guess replayed them for after that, but they were surprisingly short, a lot of the series, you'll see. Alright, so you know Papa Smurf was supposed to be 543 years old? So they're like immortal little Smurfs. They're not. So the Smurfs, they chilled. They, hid from Gargamel and such, and his nasty little cat Azrael. Really cool, very notable Smurf voices. Ed Begley Jr. was the voice of one of the Smurfs. Mel Blanc, Ruth Buzzy. People might know. I don't know if you guys know Laugh-In, if you're like, I wasn't old enough or probably even alive to see Laugh-In when it was on originally. Alive, but they used to like replay it at on Nickelodeon late at night when I was like a teenager maybe, and we used to like catch it that way. So she popped up on a lot of things. June Foray, of course, my favorite. She was Jokey Smurf and a couple others. Bill Hartman, who was a Saturday Night Live cast member in that kind of 80s Mike Myers, whole era on Dana Carvey. Chris Rock? No, Chris Rock was later. Yeah, but they were in that like same era. Phil Hartman, who was kind of I won't get too much into the gory details of what happened to Phil Hartman, but so he's no longer with us. But I was really surprised at all of the animated series he did in the 80s. Pretty cool. Alright, Inspector Gadget. Inspector Gadget ran from 83 to 86. Is a favorite in my house. My mom loved Inspector Gadget. So Don Adams he was an old actor from a show called Get Smart and stuff like that. He was Inspector Gadget originally, before there were movies or anything like that from the 80s series. And as I mentioned before, Cree Summer, that was her first. And, Alvin and the Chipmunks was a very big 80s animated series. It just said since 1983, so I guess they never really counted it as ending. I don't know when the animated series 80s ended. Alvin and the Chipmunks as a premise did exist before that, like well before the 80s, because um you know, I'm not Chris, blah blah blah, yada yada, you know, I want to hula hoop that, you know. Alvin and the Chipmunks was well older than the 80s. So I don't know what they were originally, if not a, if they were just kind of like a premise, or if it was like a comic or something like that. I don't know how. If anybody knows how Alvin and the Chipmunks originated the 80s cartoon, for sure let me know. But yeah, that was another one. Booth Buzzy, June Foray, Nancy Cartwright. One guy who did the voice of like everybody in the series. His name was Ross Bagdasarian Jr. He has a very long like, but he did the voice of like all the Chipmunks, David Seville. So it was just like mostly this one dude doing all of Alvin and the Chipmunks for years. And then there was like another guy at one point that did like a bunch of the voices or did like all the Chipettes and stuff. I guess they just like altered the speed slightly, a little bit different. But yeah, so that was pretty interesting that like one dude was every chipmunk and like Davidsville too. Alright. Care Bears. Care Bears there. Care Bears ran from 85 to 88 as an animated series. There were also some like Care Bear movies that in theaters, so don't know at what point those were. I was really, really young. But yeah, they had a pretty Bears. Care Bears was definitely prime. Yeah, it was around that time, 58. I thought maybe early 60s, but that seems more correct. And you guys know your Christmas stuff, Ben, so I'm gonna take your word for it. But yeah. Muppet Babies. So Muppet Babies aired from 1984 to 91. Again, pretty long one. I didn't realize Muppet Babies stayed on so long. Doing like new episodes and things like that. Also a little surprising who like some of the voice cast was from Muppet Babies. So you guys possibly know anything about Leave It to Beaver, but Barbara Billingsley, who played the mom on Leave It to Beaver, was Nanny from Muppet Babies. Really cool. Dave Coulier, who was Uncle Joey on Full House. That one. He did a bunch of the voices on Muppet Babies, Animal, Bunsen, Janice, Camilla the Chicken, a couple others. But he actually, I guess, started in 86. So from 84 to 85, those voices will. It seems like he kind of took over for Howie Mandel. So I guess Howie Mandel started off doing Muppet Babies. You know what else I didn't come across now that I think of Howie Mandel? Cartoon Bobby's World. But I'm thinking that might have been more firmly 90s, like early 90s Bobby's World. Yeah, probably why I didn't come. Exactly. Fantastic. That's exactly who Uncle Joey is. So one of Danny's favorites, DuckTales. DuckTales aired from. He just did a woo. DuckTales ran from 87 to 90. That's one that I really thought was on for a bit longer. But that was that for DuckTales. Again, my girl June Foray did some voices on DuckTales. She was Magica, a couple others. Cartman was on DuckTales too, Captain Fry. And then from DuckTales spun Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers. That was on to 90. DuckTales I saw quite a bit. Rescue Rangers, Denny probably knows more Rescue Rangers than I do. That one I didn't quite see as much. But dun dun dun. Jem and the Holograms. No, so Jem was the cartoon. Jem, oddly, I don't know about any of you who may have seen it or how it was where you live, but Jem was not like an afternoon cartoon or a Jem was on in the morning before we went to school, like 7 o'clock or something like that. We used to watch Jem while we were getting ready to go to school. Chip and Dale. Yeah. Early morning cartoon. There were two cartoons that were always on together. It was Jem, and for the life of me, I can't think of what the other one was, but I will definitely. Rainbow Bright. I have a Rainbow Bright doll somewhere. I do. Where's my Rainbow Bright doll? Good question. I'm hoping it's with the ET pile of stuffed things that we have over there, but I will have to verify. Rainbow Bright was 86. Very quick, these 80s cartoons. That was one I liked a lot. I had a bunch of dolls from it. Used to live there. But weirdly, I guess since it was on for such a short time and I was really young, I don't remember a lot about it. Don't remember really the characters or anything. Like, I remember the little twinks. That's what they were. Twink was the name of her little sprite friend. It was a little puffball, little like star things. Rainbow Bright was a weird cartoon about it. My Little Pony, of course. My Little Pony ran from 86 to 87. It appears so. So that was a really quick one. My Little Pony had, I mean, it was primarily a toy. I think the cartoon, like, it was also like I think one of the first series that Nancy Cartwright did, who went on to do like the voice of Bart Simpson. Pops up in a lot of different animated series. But yeah, and then My Little Pony made like a huge comeback ago, which spawned an entire fandom of, I don't know, all kinds of people, but a lot of dudes that like My Little Pony. The Bronies. Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats. That was when we used to catch one from 84 to 87. Like, I can't get super into anything, unfortunately, because we would literally be here for hours and hours and hours. So we're just gonna have to be like a quick mention and maybe a couple details, but not too much more. But Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats, a lot, and I can still like Heathcliff, no one should terrify the neighborhood. They were like little gangs of cats and stuff. Pound Puppies. The cartoon was on from 85 to 88. I feel like a lot of these cartoons came after the toys rather than the other way around. Like, I think now is more of a tendency to like do a show and then you make toys from it or movies or what have you. In the 80s, it was kind of the opposite. Like, toys would come out, and if the toys got, somebody would be like, oh, let's make a cartoon. That's kind of what happened in a lot of these. Popples was another one that was, I don't know how to describe a popple to you exactly, but they like folded into a little ball, like you would like they had a little like thing in the back, and you would like flip it inside out, and it would be a little ball. And then you would like flip the little ball inside out, and it was a weird thing. I don't know. It was a popple. A popple is not any specific animal. It's just this weird little thing. They were really cute. I had a few. That was an animated series for a while. Again, I remember it more as a toy than I do as a cartoon. I do remember definitely as a toy more than that. So, oh, you know, that I know was on in the 80's, and I know it was a cartoon for a while, and I did not come across it on any, like, Poochie. Poochie was a little white dog with pink ears. I'm gonna have to look up Poochie so that I can give you that information. So, The Adventures of the Gummy Bears. Dun, 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 dun. The Adventures of the Gummy Bears ran from 91, which is a pretty decent run for an 80's animated series. But that's good because The Adventures of the Gummy Bears was awesome. Again, Grammy Gummy. A couple other notable people who did Gummy Bear voices, and Gummy Bears is available Plus for your viewing pleasure. So, if you have never seen The Adventures of the Gummy Bears, I suggest that you watch it because it's awesome. What am I looking at? Poochie. Fraggle Rock. Not still Jim Henson, but there was a Fraggle Rock animated series. Like I was Fraggle Rock originally was on like the puppet one, and to my recollection, and somebody can let me know if I'm right or correct, but Fraggle Rock was an HBO show. It wasn't like available everywhere for your viewing pleasure. Fraggle Rock was on pay cable. To my recollection, when I was really, really young. Older, they used to air like reruns of it on regular TV. Yeah, right. I was super young. I mean, like before I started kindergarten. I had a like some weird like specific recollection of it being on HBO. These Kids cartoon classic Poochie. It says it was a TV short in 1984, so I guess it wasn't like I guess it wasn't a regular cartoon, but it had some like little cartoon specials on something. Maybe Saturday morning. It was something called 80's Cartoon Classics. But no, that would have been on later. I remember that. I don't know. I'm not even the internet is not giving me solid information. And there was something else that was kind of similar to that. Not Hello Kitty. Because Hello Kitty were like toys, but not really a cartoon. But there was something sort of similar to Hello Kitty. The name of right now, but I will. Alf, the animated series, which was of course, and Alf was really popular, so they ended up doing an animated series of it for a bit. That aired from 87 to 89. Then for you, I threw in Where Dennis the Menace, which was originally, as I said, missed from my list somehow, but I definitely Dennis the Menace cartoon. It ran from 86 to 88. Joe. Quite popular in the 80's. 80's was a big time for G.I. Joe. I think the toys existed for quite before that, and I don't know how G.I. Joe originated exactly, because that was boy stuff that I wasn't really into too much. But I did have a brother and a Joe, and I did have toys everywhere, so I can attest to the popularity of 80's G.I. Joe. G.I. 3 to 86. It felt longer to me, but apparently only 3 years for G.I. Joe. Yeah, G.I. Joe was definitely a premise long before that. Because it was a re-release Joe or like a furthering, but it was a big thing in the 80's for quite a while. He-Man and of the Universe. We were a very He-Man household. Watched all that. 83 to 85. Boom. Like a couple years. Not very long. I was sort of surprised about that. But He-Man from 83 to 85, and then She-Ra, the Princess of Power. Like, I have to be like, how lame were we in the 80s to bought a title like that? Like, I mean, like, yeah, I know that He-Man was like Prince Adam or whatever, which was so like, it was just such a weird premise. Everything about He-Man was weird, but it just like worked for whatever reason it did. I have to shout out Alan Oppenheimer, voice of Skeletor. Like, to me, like one of the best animated voices of all time. Like, it is top time voice performances for me, definitely. Skeletor's voice is just, you can't. It's this like big skeleton, which is, as it is, a little. But he's a big diesel skeleton, and his voice is like, it's like the Wicked Witch. Hilarious. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. If you have any opportunity, I mean, Skeletor was also in She-Ra, Princess of Power. God. How did we eat up something that they were just like, call it Princess Power? And we're just like, yes. Yes, Princess of Power. Like, look, some of our premises might seem a tad lame to the modern and discretion, but you have to see the gap we bridged in where animation came from and where it is today. Like, are a very solid bridge to cartoons becoming much edgier than, I mean, well, I gotta say, from the earliest cartoons, you can find some pretty edgy stuff out there. It might not have been as like wide and popular from stuff like like the early Iwerks cartoons. The guy who did, kind of created Mickey Mouse, even though Walt Disney gets the Iwerks who sort of created Mickey Mouse, and Iwerks did awesome cartoons, like awesome, awesome, awesome. Like, if you guys don't know about Iwerks, he's got a weird name. Here, really type it in here so that you people can see how it is. Alright, I believe that's the right spelling. So he was like super tight with Walt Disney and like sort of started that whole thing off with him, and then they kind of had a falling out. It's a whole story. There's an like, I've learned about him in a couple places, but if this is your cup of tea for learning about things. There's an episode of Drunk History, and Tony Hale, who plays Buster in Arrested Development, plays a fireworks. He's so funny. But yes, back to our cartoons. Here's some that I totally forgot about. The Adventures of Teddy Ruxpin. Teddy Ruxpin aired from 87 to 88. Now, for any of you that are unaware, I'm sure YouTube has some Ruxpin videos so you can get a perfectly accurate image in your head of what Teddy Ruxpin is. But he was this creepy little that got real popular when it came out in the 80s because it was kind of the first toy that did what it did. So what it did was it had a little tape, and you put in these Teddy Ruxpin tapes. They were just like regular cassette tapes, and his little like mouth moved and talked to you, stories and stuff like that. It was the first kind of thing like that, which is why it became really popular. But if you go back and look at it now, your modern point of view, it is just the creepiest thing ever. Teddy, oh, excuse me. Was super creepy. Like, I had friends who had one, and like it moves and blah. I don't like Teddy Ruxpin. But yeah, I forgot it was an animated series briefly. However, Ewoks. I forgot about the Ewoks cartoon. Ewoks aired from 85 to 87. Was in Ewoks because she was in everything. But yeah, I was like, how did I forget about Ewoks? But I did. But that was a really cute cartoon. Years. Another. I feel like is in Danny's 3 cartoons. So here's for you, bud. The Real Ghostbusters. The Real Ghostbusters aired from 91. It spawned some excellent toys that Danny still talks about to this day. Another Dave Coulier played Bankman. There was one guy who did it in the first season. He did it from 87 to 91. And Arsenio Hall in the animated series, which I did not know. For anybody who doesn't know who Arsenio Hall is, he had a very late night talk show. Arsenio Hall. He was Eddie Murphy's boy in Coming to America and stuff. That's Arsenio Hall. And Arsenio Hall, I had no idea ever did any voice work. But he was Winston on The Real Ghostbusters. From The Real Ghostbusters, which I kind of almost forgot about, but Danny probably remembers, spun Slimer and The Real Ghostbusters, which aired from 88 to 90. So The Real Ghostbusters went from 86 to 91. So it went longer and started before. But I guess running the two of them together was probably a little bit of white noise, but yeah, Ghostbusters, and both of them ran at the same time. So there you go. Garfield and Friends, of course, 8 to 95. Prior to that, Garfield, of course, was originally a comic strip. They would do like holiday specials and things like that of Garfield in the earlier 80s, but it became kind of a standalone animated series with all his little in 88. There you go. till 95, which is pretty crazy because I graduated high school by then. I remember the Garfield one pretty well, but oh well. One of my all-time favorites, and I know one of Danny's too, and probably some of you, because it's really a great cartoon. I mean, if you want to talk about like bridging to cartoons being like a little cool, you know, Beetlejuice cartoon made from the movie Beetlejuice, couple years after, not like right after, but it was a great cartoon. It really was. Just recently, I was back watching like all the episodes of Beetlejuice. So, what? I can like hear Daddy talking in the other room. I have no idea what he's saying. So Beetlejuice ran from 89 to 91. Probably should have ran longer because it's great. You can actually I think it's called Daily Motion. Was that the name of the site where we watched all the episodes recently? Yeah. So, go to a site called Daily Motion. That's where we were able to, online free OG Beetlejuice episodes. Because it's like things that different people post, but somebody had posted all the Beetlejuice episodes, so it was awesome and perfect. And I was able to watch it on TV. Yeah. So it was great, and we really just a few months ago watched Beetlejuice, and it holds up, and it's still an awesome cartoon. Bam, Beetlejuice. Dungeons and Dragons was an animated series briefly. 83. I don't remember too much about that one. Either it was too old for me at the time and I didn't watch it, or I don't know. Dungeons and Dragons was an animated series. How come my chat is not moving on its own? You hated what show, Danny? He crazy. My Pet Monster was briefly an animated series. Anybody remember that? If anybody does, Danny probably does. Only for 1 year. But My Pet Monster, awesome toy. Apparently not a successful animated series, but definitely I have to go look around and see. I have to imagine on YouTube it exists somewhere. Some clips of My Pet Monster, the animated series. I'll definitely be checking that out. Transformers. Transformers, the animated series, ran again. That's another thing that cartoon first. I mean, toy first, cartoon second. Ran from 84 to 87. I mean, I mentioned Frank Welker, who had done like Megatron, but Casey Kasem, who pretty famously did the voice of Shaggy on Scooby-Doo, and used to do a countdown on the radio every weekend in the 80s, and that's how most people do. I was pretty surprised that he was one of the voices in Transformers. He was Teletron. Somebody else that I didn't recognize, but hey. Along with that, Transformers. I believe Transformers came first, but right around when they started doing sort of similar things. So that's when Voltron came around. Voltron was 84 to 85, so that was 84, really right around the same time Voltron came out. That was also around the same time as another. Maybe it's that one. Thundercats. Oh, all right, Thundercats. The original Tiger King ran from 85 to 89. My mom was a big fan of. Definitely saw that one a lot. But yeah. And then another all-time favorites, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles aired from 87 to 96. Really long time. You guys are killing me right now. So, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was everything. It was an animated series, it was toys, and it was a pretty popular movie franchise. I guess I want to say early 90s when the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie came. As I said, Danny's a fan of Ninja Turtles. I mean, they were heroes on a half shell. So, what was not to like about the Ninja Turtles? They had a little rat sensei. How do you not love this? On a half shell. Punky Brewster. Yes. Well, obviously, Punky Brewster first was show, then an animated series from 85 to 87. I was a huge Punky Brewster fan. Didn't get into the cartoon, but I definitely saw it enough. The show was kind of my jam though, and the reboot. I don't know. New Punky Brewster show is going to be coming out soon with Soleil Moonfry, the original Punky Brewster kid, whoever they are. I don't know the whole scenario. I know Freddie Prinze Jr.'s in it, and that it should be coming out soon. I have exactly when, but I'll definitely be looking out for it because I love some Punky Brewster. Really hope they do justice to like the original, but we'll see. The Wuzzles. That was another one. I remember it being a pretty decent cartoon, but it was only 1985. Apparently, it was a short-lived cartoon. The toys were another thing that was very popular. Okay, Wuzzles were, they were like two animals mixed together. So there was like Bumble Lion, and he was a lion bee. And like Elleru was an elephant kangaroo. I had like the doll that I had was Butter Bear, Butterfly Bear. So all the Wuzzles are two animals mixed together. My brother had some kind of monkey. I think it was a rhino monkey. I have no idea what the name of it was. No idea. Wolf animated series, which I don't really remember. My brain seems to have erased the fact that there was a Teen Wolf animated. I guess after the very popular Teen Wolf movies were done, originally Michael J. Fox played Teen Wolf, and Bateman took over and played Teen Wolf. And then it was an animated series for a couple years, 86 to 88, surprisingly. There was a RoboCop animated series. 88. Police Academy, the animated series, which ran from 88 to 89. Like, I do now, like, after being mentioned, I'm like, oh yeah. But I forgot that there was, I mean, definitely the Police Academy movie series I remember pretty well, but the fact that there was an animated series for a few years, do not remember that. Dink the Little Dinosaur? Does anybody? I don't too specifically remember this one. Don't know if any of you guys do. It ran from 89 to 91, so it was pretty much the same year that Simpsons started. Dink the Little Dinosaur. Okay. California Raisin Show is okay. The California Raisins were a commercial. They were a commercial for raisins that got popular. And then there were little California raisins like figures that people had. People thought it was hilarious. It explained to you the phenomenon that was the California raisins, stupid little claymation raisins singing "I Heard It Through the Grapevine." People went nuts for this. I don't even know why they thought it was hilarious. I don't know. There were like little toys of it and stuff like that, like the Smurf figures, raisins, much later. 89 to 90, California Raisin Show. There you go. Now that's a thing. You know. Did I get to all? Dun, dun, dun. I think that's all of my list. Tony say, go ninja, go. Yes. Yes, there were Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle rap songs. There were. Oh my gosh. But yeah, that's the conclusion of my 80s cartoon list. There are others that pop up. But it was a pretty comprehensive list. Now there were a lot of, like I said at the beginning, like super weird, obscure cartoons that I was at, and I did not put them on the list. But yeah, I figured might as well make it an animation month, keep us interested. So I figured this was like the perfect way to kick it off because they're some of the most like timeless, awesome cartoons. Of course, like we'll do one on classic cartoons. We'll do one on maybe like 90s cartoons or like 90s and 2000 cartoons. I'll see. I have to look at them and see if they go together or if they have to go separately. We'll figure that out. So I figure, we'll do a classic later cartoons, and we'll do as I said, an adult animation special where we talk about all of the fabulous world adult animation that was created that has brought definite joy in my life, and they are fun and hilarious. So, yep, we'll be getting into lots more anime behind the scenes this month. All right, thank you guys for stopping in and hanging out. I hope you're staying safe. Hope you're staying healthy. Thinking about all of you. And Danny and I'll see you tomorrow night, midnight hangout, Saturday midnight, as always. And I think that's about it. All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you.